Hey, Annissa here with Firehouse Education and this week's Ask Annissa video column. And this week I am coming to you from Temecula, California area. And I don't know if you remember, but back in September, this was the area where there was wildfires going on, massive wildfires. And I'm actually in one of the neighborhoods where I just left a home that we're going to be cleaning and getting some equipment set up in there to clean up the air in their house, and they were right on the line of the fire. And I decided to ask Annissa here, answering a couple of questions, but basically talking about the wildfire scenario, because I got so many emails and phone calls and text message questions about the wildfire stuff that was going on when this all was happening here in California. I want to say August and September, it really went on pretty big time. And as we all know, last year the wildfires in California were record-breaking and astronomical. And one of the big things here that I wanted to show you was just what is happening here. So in California, there's a lot of foothills, as you can see out behind me, and these are black out here. I'm not sure if you can see it really great with the sun. I might try to get some better footage while I'm here for you guys, but this area is normally all green and it's just coal black. And right over here, I'm sure if you can get this, Kevin, where these houses are, you see this fence. The fire burned right up to that fence, and that's literally these people's backyard. Some of these houses have windows that were melted and some pretty heavy damage, but the majority of people, their homes were saved, and what they suffered from was a lot of smoke and ash intrusion in their home. The firemen were actually right there on the back of that fence and set up their command center and was able to divert the fire, and it took off with the wind and pulled it back up that direction. So there was a few homes that was badly damaged, with the windows melting and some siding, and had to have a couple structural things, but the majority of these jobs, these losses that happened, they're cleaning. And that was the big thing that I get asked a lot of questions of. People are like, well, it's a wildfire and it ravaged across all these acres. Is there anything left to do? It's burned to the ground. Yes, there are some structures that burn to the ground, which often happens in a wildfire type situation. But here's the deal. What happens, the majority of the, let's say, I don't know for sure how many structures, if any, burned in this fire. But I remember in our state a couple years ago when we were burning everywhere, there was a wildfire that went over 750,000 acres, and there were 3 structures that burnt to the ground. But there was hundreds of homes affected by smoke and ash intrusion. So what happens is there is 0 structural damage to these places, and yet they all need to be cleaned. So there's a ton of restorative cleaning that needs to take place when you have a wildfire situation. So a big question, which I believe was on last week's Ask Annissa, was about whether or not you had to be a contractor. Did you know how to have a contractor's license in order to do wildfire? Did you restoration? Do you have to rebuild these homes? No, we're talking about jobs with no structural damage, and that was back in September. Today's December 1st. We're still cleaning houses out here. Okay, there is still a lot of homes that need to be cleaned here, and different restoration companies in the area are just trying to get to them as fast as they can, but they're backed up. It's what I've been saying, that there's just not enough qualified, trained professionals in our industry that do this kind of restorative cleaning. There's a really big need in our industry. So I just wanted to, again, show you where we were and kind of what we were doing, and talk to you and hopefully answer a lot of your questions about whether or not this kind of work is worth doing. Are there really jobs to get, or is everything just burning to the ground? And whether or not this work is, cumbersome, and do you have to have a contractor's license and a lot of, setup and gear? You really don't. This kind of cleaning is restorative cleaning. It's super lucrative, super profitable, and if you know what you're doing, it's not difficult, and it's not hugely equipment intensive. In fact, for all of these jobs that do this kind of work, we don't even use an sonic machine. The only thing I'm using is mops, buckets, some air scrubbers, and hydroxyl machines. That's it. That's the extent of equipment. The rest, there's some supplies and solutions that we use, obviously a lot of chem sponges and HEPA vacuums, that sort of thing. But it is not equipment intensive, and it's not expensive to get into this kind of restorative cleaning. So we're actually doing a class here next week, hands-on. We've got people going through one of the jobs with us. Probably going to do another one in January. If you're interested, please send me an email, Annissa@firehouseeducation.com, and I'm starting a waiting list right now for that class in January. And we're actually going to be cleaning in this neighborhood, I believe. So anyway, I hope that really helps you and helps all of the people that sent me the questions. I know I talked one-on-one with most of you personally, but I just really wanted to put this out there, figuring that probably a lot of people had this kind of question or concern about doing this kind of work. On that note, be sure and subscribe to rnrmagonline.com's e-newsletter and send me questions. You know how much I love to hear from you. To my email, Annissa@firehouseeducation.com, and I just might feature you on next week's Ask Annissa video column.